Okay, welcome back. So, in today's lesson, we will kind of be going over arrays, to be more specific, one-dimensional arrays. So, let's just start off with the definition of an array, all right? And so I just pulled this definition straight from the interwebs. So, an array is a collection of items of the same data type stored at contiguous memory locations. It is a data structure. This is very important. This is very important, right? It is a data structure that can be easily sorted and searched. You can access any element of an array by using its index, right? Also, another key thing, using its index, which is a number that represents its position in the array. Index and position, right? If you guys have been following when I was explaining for loops, I'm pretty much sure that I would have basically iterated over these two words, index and position, right? Index and position, right? And I was explaining the for loops. So what's going to be happening is we are going to be creating an array, right? An array can be used as a memory location, right? You can try and find the memory location of a particular element that is within an array, but we will essentially be trying to create an array, not only just create the array to create it, but we're creating the array so that we can access the elements within the array, because it's not about you creating the array. It's not about the array. It's about the elements that are within the array. And it's also about whether or not can you actually manipulate the elements that are within the array. Obviously, arrays themselves have their own constraints, right? Like you can't necessarily append an element to an array after you've just given it the size of the array, unless if you obviously are going to be using dynamic arrays, which we will go over. But they do have their own limitations, right? They require you to specify its length. They require you to give it its length, right? The reasoning for that gets a bit more technical, but for now, you just need to know that an array is something, right? It's a data structure that stores information almost like a variable, but it can store multiple pieces of information, and those pieces of information are stored in memory locations, which could be referred to as the elements, which is whatever is within that array, and we can then access those different elements within the array using the index, right? So we can get the index or the position of each individual element within the array to then access that element or to do some form of process with that element. So now let's just go down here, right? Right, arrays and CPP, right? Okay, so we have two basically types, right, of arrays. One is we have the string, right? The string array. So let's just say string names, right? And then we're gonna sort of come here, and then we're gonna do this, right? We can say, I don't know, Kim, J, I don't know, Uno, Bruno, uh, Kevin, and let's just say Tamsan. I don't know. I just like that name. Yeah. So this is basically the array that we have, right? It's a one-dimensional array, and it stores names. That is all that it does. It just stores names. We denote an array to our computer by these square brackets. These square brackets tells the computer that, listen, this is not just any type of variable. In fact, it's not even a variable. It is a data structure, right? It's a data structure. It's a form of storing multiple values and a form of actually manipulating values within that same array, or within that same data structure. So we denote that by these square brackets, right? So we then say string name square brackets, and then we have all of these names that we have here. Now, I know that I've been stressing to you guys, and I've been repeating over and over and over again that listen, we need to give the array a specified length, right? We need to tell the computer that listen, you have basically 7 elements, right? I am going to be only storing 7 elements within this array. But what I'm doing here is, if you guys, are watching carefully, there is no value that I put within these square brackets because what I've been telling you is you need to have a length, right? But there technically is no value put here which would represent the length of the array. Well, that's because this is one way of declaring an array, right? Where we essentially have all the elements. Where we essentially have all the elements, and the computer now knows that with the elements that I'm given, that is basically going to be the length of this array, because he's not going to append any elements in the array, nor is he actually going to be removing any elements in the array. So these are the elements in the array. You can think of it as as maybe say you guys you'll just book the front row seats, right? It's an event. You'll just book the front row seats of, maybe say it's a music festival. Maybe let's just say that you went to an awards ceremony, whatever it is, right? You just booked the first seats, right? The first 5 seats of the awards ceremony. Well, the event organizer could do either one of two things to try and get the exact number of you guys. One, he could ask, hey man, just give me the names of the people that are going to be attending the ceremony so that I can put their names down as a reserved, right? So in the seat, I can write down that this seat is reserved for this particular person. Then you will say, okay, well, the names are Kim, Jay, Uno, Bruno, Kevin, and Samsung, right? So those first 6 names, so those are the people that are actually going to be attending that ceremony and are going to be booking the seats to booking the front row seats to that awards ceremony. So now he knows that I only need to cater to 6 people. I only need to put the reserved paper there in the seat for only 6 people, right? So that's it. So I'm only booking seats for 6 people in the front row seat. But then there's another way of doing this, right? There is another way. Believe me or not, there is another way of doing this. What he can also do is to say, you know what? I don't want you to give me the names of the people. The names of the people are, to be quite honest, irrelevant to me. I just want to know how many seats are you people going to be occupying. Whatever the number is, that's the thing that I want. Who is going to be sitting where and how, I really don't care. They just want to know the number of the seats. And in real life, this is actually what's going to be happening in most cases, right? Where if you're going to come to a particular place, they don't really care who the hell you are, right? They just want to know how many of you guys are going to be there so that they can allocate, seats adequately to you guys. So this is another way of doing it. You can then say string names, not 7, it's 6, right? It's 6. And then what you can do is when you're now trying to actually enter in the different values in the array, you then say names at index 0 is equals to Kim, right? And then you say names at index 1, is equals to J, right? And then you say names at index 2 is then equals to Uno, right? And then you go on and 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 on, and now it's Bruno, right? So we will go on and on and on, right, up until we get to, okay, let me just not be lazy, let me just do this whole thing, right? Let me just do the whole thing, because I've already started it anyway, so that's going to be Kevin, and then the last one, number 5, is going to be Tamsang, my man, Tamsang. Okay, so you could do it either one of two ways. Either you are not going to exactly write down the length of this array, but you are going to be giving it the elements which the computer is going to then read and determine exactly what is the length of the array for itself. Or you can just, if you don't necessarily have the particular values at that time, you can just give it the length and then assign the values later. But we're not necessarily going to be doing this now, are we? Because the whole point of you being a programmer, or the whole point of you being a computer enthusiast, is so that you can work hard so that you can be lazy. That's what we do. We just want to really work hard so that we can put ourselves in a position where we don't have to write down all of this annoying lines of code. Imagine this: names at index 0 is equals to Kim, name at index 1 is equal. That is a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work. Nobody expects you to do that. If they see you doing this, if anyone who actually knows their stuff, if they see you doing this, then they have a pretty good idea of exactly which level of complexity are you in terms of programming, right? How good are you? How experienced are you? They know you have just learned how to write down a hello world program, and now you are trying to, I don't know, make sense of arrays, right? So yeah, that's it. But I just want to talk about something that's a bit important, right? So I said names 0, right? So names 0. What the hell do I mean by names 0? Well, the interesting thing is I said that there's 6, right? Names 6. There's 6 elements within this array, right? But I am saying that names at index 0 is equals to Kim. I want you guys to basically listen to what I'm saying, right? Names at index 0 is equals to Kim. Computers, right? They start counting at 0. They don't start counting at 1, right? So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, I think it's 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Okay, and that's going to be 4, and then that's going to be 5, right? So they start counting at 0. So when you're trying to basically get the index or the position, when you're trying to get the position of a particular element within this array, you start counting at 0. So index 1 is to the computer referring to J. It's not referring to Kim. If you want to get to Kim, you're going to have to say index 0. That's Kim. Kim is index 0. J is index 1. That's it, right? So that's basically how we do this entire thing. We start at index at position 0, right? At position 0. Do not get mistaken, because a lot of people think, okay, well, since we're starting at index 0, or we're starting at the position 0, then that means that the length of our array is 5. No, the length of the array is not 5. The length of the array is 6. But when we start to try to get the positionings of each element within this array, we are going to start at index 0. The length of this array is still 6. It's not 5. But we start at index 0, because if you're going to start, you're going to say 0 to 5, you're going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the end of you counting up until 5, you're probably going to be holding up 6 fingers, right? But if you had to say, if you're going to have to say then, okay, I'm going to start at index 0, but I'm going to be ending at 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At the end of it, you will be holding 7 fingers. So that's how these things work, right? Do not get confused. In for loops, we are going to go over how exactly to iterate over an array, but that's just what you need to understand. Those are the basics of arrays that you need to understand: the indexing, the positioning, and then the length of the array. That's all that you need to understand. So yeah, but for this video, we've only done string data types of arrays. We can also do int numbers, right? We can also do int numbers, right? And then say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's just say 10. Okay. So it's, yeah, so now we basically have an array of integers starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. but it's starting at index 0. So if you're trying to get number 1 or the element 1 within this array, you're not going to say, hey, listen, I'm looking for position 0. I'm looking for position 1, sorry. You're going to say, I'm looking for position 0, not position 1, because position 1 is number 2. So those are arrays, right? Those are just arrays in general. And so when you want to then say see out an array, all you need to just do is say, hey, array at this index, right? That's it. Right? So array at this particular index, that's basically all that I want, right? So I'm going to see out that. You're going to come here and say 1. Okay, we're going to see out that again. We're going to come here and say 2. We're going to see out that. We're going to come here and then say 3. We're going to see out that. We're going to come here and say 4. And then we're going to come back and we'll see out and say 5. Right? We're going to then say 5. And then if you're going to run this, okay, so we have Kim, Jay, Uno, Bruno, Kevin, Tamsang. But what would have happened? Let's just do this, right? Because programming is a very practical thing. Let's just say 6. Let's just put 6 there, right? Even though there is no index 6, and we know that there is no index called 6, but let's just say that maybe you want to know exactly what's going to happen. Right? Let's just try that for a second. There's nothing. Nothing is at index 6. Absolutely nothing is at index 6 because there is no index 6. It only stops at index 5, right? So that's just arrays or one-dimensional arrays, encapsulated in one lesson,